If you ever find yourself married to an amnesiac and suddenly they start remembering who they were in their past and they start displaying a particular set of skills, such as cutting vegetables, throwing knives, and displaying various assassin tendencies, don't worry, chefs do that. I'm John Renton with the retro review of The Long Kiss Goodnight, starring Geena Davis and Samuel L. Jackson. And as we know, the L in Samuel L. Jackson stands for motherfucker. Let me know your thoughts on this movie in the comments, please. Yes, this is from the Samuel L. Jackson Triple Threat Collection. I actually think it's called a triple feature, but nevertheless, just pretend that I'm referring to a group that happened in ECW and other promotions back in the 90s, and possibly even now. Nevertheless, speaking of the 90s, this came out in 1996. It's directed by Rennie Harlin, who did Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger. He also did the recent Strangers trilogy, of which, as of this recording, only one has come out, and me oh my, down the goddamn bayou, that movie fucking sucked. What also fucking sucked was the other movie that he had something to do with his, at the time, wife, Geena Davis. She's been married 4 times. Boy, does she get around. That's mean for no goddamn reason. Geena Davis, though, tremendous actress, A League of Their Own, and The Long Kiss Goodnight, and Cutthroat Island. Remember Cutthroat Island? A movie that honestly was pretty goddamn silly, was somehow not as bad as Waterworld, that is, another seafaring adventure, but Cutthroat Island sunk the goddamn studio that funded it. And as you see it, you can kind of fucking understand why. That being said, The Long Kiss Goodnight kind of is a make-good from Rennie Harlin. This was also written by Shane Black, who was Hawkins in Predator. It would have just been funny if his name was Mike, then it could have been Mike Hawkins. If you get it, you get it. He also wrote Iron Man 3 and Lethal Weapon. Yes, he did the first Lethal Weapon. Back before we knew that Mel Gibson hated Jewish people and yelled at his wife. And really was just an overall piece of shit. Nevertheless, so yes, this features Geena Davis, who plays Sam, who made the pants too long, Samantha Kane, as it were, who's a housewife with amnesia, and for 8 years, she has been living a proper life. She has a man named Hal. They have a daughter named Caitlin, played by Yvonne Zima. Remember Zima? Remember that, beer that they advertise, that clear beer is like Crystal Pepsi and somehow just as disgusting? That being said, they are living a quiet life, and then suddenly, people from her past come around, and then it turns out that Sam, not only making the pants too long, isn't actually Sam. She is Charly, and she was an assassin. One of the goddamn best. And she must solve this mystery before everybody in her life that she didn't actually know was, not part of her life before, our history. The Long Kiss Goodnight tales, woohoo. So, The Long Kiss Goodnight is fun. It's not by any means a deep narrative. It is not by any means something that contains really a great villain. I would argue this is actually one of the dumbest goddamn villains. I mean, nothing against the actor, Craig Burko, who plays Timothy, but, I mean, the motives for why they're doing this particular thing just actually make me goddamn laugh, because I'm giving you kind of like a spoiler-free rundown, but this movie has been out for nearly 30 fucking years. But basically the idea is they're going to commit a terrible act, and that's pretty much it there. And Geena Davis must display her particular set of skills. One, she was nearly 40 at this point, still looked incredibly good, and her and Samuel L. Jackson have tremendous chemistry. Sam Jackson's character is named Mitch Hennessy. I don't know why that made me laugh. Brian Cox is also in this. In his never-ending run of movies where he seemingly dies almost as much as Sean Bean does. You have David Morse, who was also in The Rock earlier in the year. And then you have Melina Kanakadaris, who is absolutely incredibly beautiful. Good goddamn Christ. Nevertheless, yep, it's assassin, spy, particular, crazy, over-the-top action, violence, silliness, witty lines. Samuel L. Jackson pretty much actually has some of the wittiest goddamn lines. When he, does this bust or whatever, you never make an assumption. When you do, you make an ass out of you and umption. And that's pretty goddamn hilarious. So, a few facts and figures about this. $65 million budget, double that for today. It's about $130 million. You have $9 million opening rather, and $18.1 million in today's money. It only made about just half its budget, $33.4 million, which would be $67 million, and then $89.4 million haul worldwide. $108 million in today's money. So, by no means a complete failure, but I think after marketing and everything, this movie probably about broke even. And I remember liking this movie when it first came out, and I even saw it a few years after it had come out. back when video stores were still a thing. But now that it's, it's getting closer to, almost being 30 years old, I decided to basically retro review this and see if it still holds up. And it mostly does. Now, yes, you may notice I am wearing the festive hat. I don't know why it took me so long to address it. It takes place around Christmas. So just pretend that I was watching this before Christmas of 2024. That being said, if you don't like it, oh well, too bad. It's festive. It's not as much of a Christmas movie as Die Hard, which is a Christmas movie, and I will fight all of you to the death in the comments. But yeah, there's your action-y spy stuff right there. It is nice. It is fun. I like Gina Davis. It is kind of funny to see her go from the dark hair to the short, bleach blonde hair. And Mitch, is just kind of this, like, cop for hire, so to speak. Like, this PI type guy that's, like, busting men, basically, that are cheating on their goddamn wives. That's where Melina's character comes in, and good goddamn Christ, you look great in this. And yeah, that's basically it right there. It is actually available, I think, to rent on Amazon if you don't happen to have this sweet Blu-ray collection. If you do, pop it in. Just give it a shot. See what you guys think. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There's your lot right there. That's about it for the goddamn, non-spoilers. So yeah, she ended up pregnant. We find out it's not really surprising who the kid's father turns out to be. She ends up having a big car wreck because some old guy is, like, kind of acting drunk towards her and everything. Family friend, I assume. And she ends up hitting a deer. Oh no, not Bambi's dad. And she ends up kind of stumbling out, but she suddenly realizes, hey, wait a second, I'm an assassin that's really, really highly trained, and then I'm going to just kill this deer because it was incapacitated and wasn't going to get back up. It's pretty much it. So it's mercy killing. And yeah, there you are. So we get these silly flashbacks. My God, the 90s green screen effects are in full force here. It's so hilarious. The old cell phones were absolutely funny. There's a guy named One-Eyed Jack that was somebody that was part of, like, the original, wave that caused Gina Davis's Sam to not, or basically Charly to not be able to remember she was an assassin. And I do have to say, though, again, Timothy is just a silly villain. I mean, really fucking silly. Like, I mean, just standard, but not even bargain basement, just a standard villain. So this the daughter Caitlin, we actually see a funny moment where One-Eyed Jack sees Charly as part of this Christmas parade in a small town. He breaks out of jail, tries to kill her, but then she remembers who she is and starts to get her skills out. This one, it's a shotgun / rocket launcher. Sure, why not? You have to kind of throw things to the side as far as logic when writing Harlin's involved. A hole gets punched through and she throws the goddamn kid into the treehouse. Now, a little bit earlier, her memories are starting to come back and she was telling the kid to get up, oh, you hurt your wrist, so life is pain, this kind of stuff, you'll get over it. But then, after the One-Eyed Jack guy breaks in, she basically hits him in the head with a pie and then ends up, like, breaking him, like, just, like, snapping his neck, like, hitting him and that kind of stuff. So now Mitch shows up. She ends up basically going off with Mitch. And this is about 25 or so minutes into the movie. And the movie's only 2 hours long. And actually, by the time the end credits roll, it's about an hour and 54 minutes. So enough of a baseline here where it doesn't feel like, okay, we just had the opening scene and then suddenly we're just, like, jumping right into it. There's at least a little bit of pacing. Though you could argue that some of this movie goes a little bit long. And Samuel almost ends up crashing the car because he sees a girl, he sees a woman out jogging or whatever. He's distracted by ass. That is very relatable. And it's funny that the president, and you may recognize who plays the president. I'm going to leave a few things for you guys to find out. He is wondering how in the world this happened, and these covert operations and all this, and I'm trying to, like, do something for my next term, and what the fuck. Brian Cox shows up, tells her name was Charlene Elizabeth Baltimore, and then Brian Cox ends up showing up while they're trying to avoid this shootout in this railway station. And then some guy throws a grenade. They have to shoot out this window and run out and everything. And they take a lot of goddamn punishment here. So Waldman basically, gives her the rundown, the backstory and everything, and talks about how he has a gun next to his dick, that nobody would pat that down and everything, even though Samuel L. Jackson referred to a little bit earlier. I'm not going to put it there. What do you want me to do? Shoot my dick off? Well, then she runs into a guy named Luke that she thought was a significant other of hers. No, actually, it turns out he was a target. There was something called Operation Honeymoon. Timothy is involved. They end up getting captured pretty quickly. Timothy manages to snag Charly and, Sam and Mitch. Mitch ends up getting beat up. She does this water torture thing where she's on this old, old mill, well wheel and stuff like that. And apparently her and her, at the time, husband, Rennie Harlin, practiced her holding her breath underwater to just see how that would work in a bathtub. Whitney Houston tried that. It didn't work too well, so let's just move on from that. So she ends up basically having these flashbacks and getting her memories back and getting her skills back. She manages to almost dislocate her goddamn wrist from the ropes. She grabs the gun out of Brian Cox's now dead body because he's Brian Cox. He has to die in water. Doing this in a ring, good lord, just stay away from even a goddamn bottle of water at this point. But then she gets a gun. She shoots David Morse a few times because, of course, David Morse has to die. It's a movie in the 90s. And then she manages to rescue Samuel L. Jackson. She gets her hair all bleached, takes a shower, gets all this, and Samuel L. Jackson's all bandaged up, and she says, "Here, look at this." Flashes him. We don't get to see, unfortunately, and she rips his bandage off. Oh, that hurt. I know, that's why I distracted you. It would be distracting. Then there's a guy named Perkins that happens to be involved, and Timothy is just... I'm sorry, but I just can't get over how cheesy this villain is. It would be hard to resist Gina Davis, is what I noted at one point. She's almost trying to get away from her former life, not even necessarily caring about the kid, but there is a point where the kid gets kidnapped, and she has to go rescue the kid. The idea here is Timothy wants to basically get a tanker truck with a chemical bomb and cause a major accident and everything, and Perkins is involved in this. And I'm going to say something that has not aged all that well, but this is in the movie, by the way. In the movie, I want to emphasize that, in 1993, there was the WTC bombing. Remember that. Remember that stuff. Remember that. You can Google it if you want. Well, now the idea is now they want to basically drum things up to get more funding for defense and possibly to do some other naughty things. So the idea is he says, well, I don't know how I can fake the deaths of 4,000 people and everything, and I'll just blame it on the Muslims. Now that's just giving more stuff to the conspiracy theories that people, not me, I want to emphasize this, not me at all, but there are people that have said 9/11 is an inside job. You're insane, by the way. Just want to say that. But yeah, talk about stuff that hasn't aged all that well, and to think this movie was only 5 years before that would have those, the trade towers would bomb, or trade towers would fall. Ooh, boy, yeah, talk about things that have not aged all that well. I mean, again, 5 years before, how the fuck could you have known? But still. I was like, ooh, Barracuda. So, yeah, the idea now is Timothy basically has a daughter. He's going to have them freeze to death. They get captured. Her and the daughter get captured, and there's a whole bunch of there's a leaking gas barrel that they just forget about, by the way, but there's a doll that the kid has. More on that here in a bit. She says to Timothy, it turns out that her and Timothy used to bump uglies again. Who could resist Gina Davis? So that is his kid. I don't care, he says. You can both freeze to death. So the idea is now they're going to be trapped. Mitch is basically, almost incapacitated. And now it turns out she actually got gas in that doll. She dug a little trench with a crowbar and is going to set the thing on fire. She's just going to set the thing on fire and everything and cause a spark. Unfortunately, she can't cause a spark because it's too cold and whatever. And they're going to freeze. But flashback earlier when her daughter was upset she was going to go. she said, here's some matches. Light a candle and, like a candle vigil, and I'll find my way home. Well, what does she have in her cast after her broken wrist from ice skating? She has matches. So they have the matches, and yeah, they blow the door up. It's actually kind of funny. Because all these why were all these gas canisters in the basement of this house? Like, who were we hoarding shit? I don't know, but it's just funny. And yeah, now the idea is they have to stop the truck. The problem is Caitlin crawls on it in an attempt to hide. Mitch ends up getting shot by Timothy, but Mitch somehow is okay because he stows away in this area where they're going to use this car to, like, I think ram the gate and then they're going to send the truck through. And I don't know why it's so funny that they're going to do this I don't know why. It's just so funny. They're going to cause this massive activity, even if it's just in a small town, or it's going to cause some kind of international event. They're very, like, flimsy on how they're going to actually pull this off and not get caught. But I think the most hilarious part is the end of it. So they go towards Canada, and, they go to Niagara Falls, slowly acted, step by step. And as Gina Davis takes control of the truck, the brakes go out and all this stuff's going on. When it heats to a particular temperature, you're going to see some serious shit. So, the kid is genuinely dumb, genuinely stupid. And her and Timothy get in a fight. Charly does, and they go into the goddamn shaft, like, where he's going to get sucked into the goddamn water. But somehow, even though he does, he manages to get back to the shore because we still have a few minutes left of this film. And she eventually rescues her kid, tells her to run and get out because she's been shot, she's been knifed and stuff like that. She's pretty much fucked. But then the kid comes back and is hammering on her, life is pain, you just learn to deal with it, get up. They attend to her emotional drama, and I just couldn't help but laugh. But then Timothy somehow manages to get into that helicopter that just happens to be around. It's like watching this whole bomb thing go on. And gets a gun, and he wants to kill her. But then Mitch ends up showing up in a getaway car, or whatever the fuck it was supposed to be. And she, because it's Christmas, she gets on some Christmas lights of this now broken, like, border area. Like, it's like almost right at the Canadian border. And it's just so funny because she sees this burning body and manages to, cut the lights, get up, get the goddamn gun that probably should be really searing hot because of the fact it was on a burning guy's body, shoots Mitch, and everything's okay. I mean, he's dead. He lands on the goddamn truck. And then Mitch, who's all shot up, I mean, he's pretty much fucked. They race away. And cars are blowing up, stuff's falling around, everything. The feds did absolutely nothing right. And somehow that bridge ended up getting blown up, and I guess everything's okay. I guess Canada didn't send down Dudley Do-Right, and the rest of the mounted police, or the people that allegedly killed Dino Bravo, must cover my ass here. And that's it. That's it right there. Except the president then calls Gina Davis sometime after, and she, it turns out actually had a lockbox. She had, a bunch of money in there stowed away in a box in Buffalo. Mitch almost bled out earlier, but didn't bleed out. He went on Larry King because it was a way for him to get the glory. Gina Davis wasn't concerned about that. And yeah, there you go. That's about it right there. That's The Long Kiss Goodnight. We did not get a sequel. Would have liked to have seen a damn sequel, but nevertheless, it is what it is. It's not meant to be necessarily taken seriously. I think it's about 10 minutes longer than it needs to be. It's not necessarily perfect, but it's fun. It's really fun. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.